Welcome to Gnosos, traveler, where the Minotaur once prowled. Some say, if you listen closely, you can still hear echoes of the Minotaur's ferocious bellowing. Of course, it may only be a trick of the wind. Perhaps. Some say, if you listen closely, you can still hear echoes of the Minotaur's ferocious bellowing. Of course, it may only be a trick of the wind. Perhaps. Gnosos was the seat of the old Minoan civilization, where King Minos once supposedly ruled. These ruins have been the backdrop for many important events in both history and mythology. Look for me when your visit is over, and we'll discuss what you've seen. I will see you again soon, traveler.
The island of Crete was first settled around 8000 BCE. Over time, significant towns and maritime trade began to develop. Palaces were built, destroyed, and then rebuilt, culminating in what archaeologists call the Neopalatial period, which began around 1700 BCE. This period lasted for over 300 years and is considered the golden age of Minoan civilization. The largest palace of this period was located in Knossos and featured maze-like complexes of workshops, temples, courts, throne rooms, and living areas, as well as paved roads and advanced plumbing and draining. Trade and external relations were important to the Minoans, and their networks extended across the eastern Mediterranean. As a result, the people of Crete and the lands they traded with often influenced each other and exchanged ideas, usually through peaceful interactions instead of military conflict. The settlement of Knossos was established as early as the 7th millennium BCE. Today, one of the site's most notable landmarks is the palace ruins, located on the Kafala Hill. The ruins are split into two phases: the old palace, which has been poorly preserved, and the new palace. The new palace of Knossos had a surface area of approximately 13,000 square meters, making it the largest Minoan palace. Its focal point was a central court, which was probably used for ceremonial activities. The Minoan palace centers collapsed when Crete was overrun and conquered by a Mycenaean invasion from mainland Greece. However, the date of the final destruction of Knossos' palace is still unknown. During the new palace phase, the ground floor was dedicated to economic activities and contained large storage rooms. The residential quarters, which notably had toilets, were located southeast of the central court, at the foot of the grand staircase. The palace was lavishly decorated with wall paintings depicting things like bull-related sports and richly dressed women. Large stone horns of consecration, which were important Minoan religious symbols, hung prominently in the west court. Other notable parts of the palace include the theatrical area, which is believed to have served as a viewing space, the tripartite shrine, which was dedicated to the worship of an important Minoan deity historians refer to as the Mother Goddess, and the Piano Nobile, a grand space located on the palace's second floor. During his trips to Crete, archaeologist Arthur John Evans discovered several ancient tablets. They eventually led him to define the forms of Minoan writing known as Linear A and Linear B. The Minoans used these forms of writing for recording many things, including business transactions. For example, one clay tablet discovered at the Palace of Knossos was inscribed in Linear B script. The tablet detailed the transfer of coriander, often used in the perfume industry, between a man named Kyprios and another person named Twinon. The deciphering of tablets such as these has given historians great insight into many aspects of Minoan culture and society. According to myth, the half-man, half-bull Minotaur was born after Queen Pasiphae slept with a bull sent by the gods as punishment upon her. This embarrassed King Minos, but he could not bring himself to kill the Minotaur. Instead, he hid the monster in a labyrinth constructed by Daedalus. Daedalus was an important figure in Greek mythology, an ingenious inventor. He once became so jealous of his similarly clever nephew that he threw him from the top of the Athenian Acropolis. As a consequence, Daedalus was banished from Athens, though this did not prevent him from being able to get work. In Crete, he was hired by Queen Pasiphae to construct an artificial cowsuit that would allow her to seduce a bull she was particularly taken with due to a curse from the gods. Daedalus complied, and his invention helped facilitate the birth of the Minotaur. Afterwards, Minos conscripted Daedalus to build the labyrinth, presumably as penance for his role in creating the Minotaur. But perhaps the most well-known story about Daedalus involves his son, Icaros, who used wings built by his father and flew too close to the sun, thus plummeting into the sea. Sometime after the birth of the Minotaur, King Minos' son Androgeos was killed in Athens by the same bull that impregnated his mother. An infuriated Minos demanded that Athens send 7 of their noblest men and 7 of their most virtuous women to Knossos every year. After being carried to Crete aboard a ship with black sails, the men and women would then be cast into the labyrinth to be eaten by the Minotaur. One of the Athenian youths chosen to be imprisoned in the labyrinth, Theseus, had enough of the morbid ritual. Before leaving Athens, he proclaimed he would kill the Minotaur, then return to his city on a ship flying white sails. Before entering the labyrinth, Theseus met King Minos' daughter, Ariadne, who fell madly in love with him. Ariadne provided Theseus with a thread he could unravel to help him find his way back out of the maze. Armed with this thread, Theseus entered the labyrinth, killed the Minotaur, escaped the maze, and set sail for Athens with Ariadne by his side.
I see you found your way through the Maze of Ruins. The Minoans played a large part in shaping Greek myths, but also in introducing influences from other places and cultures. Now, what else would you like to do? You want to test yourself? Very well. Let's begin with a simple question. On which island was Knossos located? Delos was home to a sanctuary of Apollo, not Knossos. Keep trying. On which island was Knossos located? Naxos is an island, yes, but you won't find Knossos there. Try another answer. Thasos was famous for wine, not man-eating bullmen. Try again. Yes, Knossos was located on the island of Crete. Time for another question. Which hero killed the Minotaur? Wrong mythical beast. Perseus killed Medusa. Which hero killed the Minotaur? No, King Minos had the Minotaur imprisoned instead of killing it. Keep trying. Heracles slew many beasts, but the Minotaur was not among them. Try a different answer. Correct. Theseus slew the Minotaur, then escaped the labyrinth thanks to some thread from Ariadne. Now for the last question. What did Daedalus build for Queen Pasiphae? Daedalus built the labyrinth for Pasiphae's husband Minos, not Pasiphae herself. Keep trying. No, Daedalus made wings for himself and his son Icarus. Try again. What did Daedalus build for Queen Pasiphae? No, a wooden horse was more characteristic of Odysseus. Try another answer. Yes, Daedalus made Pasiphae a cowsuit, so she could seduce the bull she was cursed to love. Congratulations, traveler. You are a true student of history. Farewell, traveler. I hope you enjoyed exploring the ruins.
Καταδικαστέα ημίν ετικέ αξίε το τραγωδοποιώ. Τραγωδοποιός έστι κλέπτης, ώστε τον υποθετόν κλέπτη του χάρη του έτους. Κύκλωθε των τραγωδών εξα... Η τραγωδία διευθύνει τους νέους και ούτι καταμαρτακίζονται. Εκπλήσει, αποφέρει το πουλί.
Μεγαλώνει με θεά.
λέγομαι. Μάλλον αυτό δυστυχεύωνε με αυτό.
they'll fight to the grave. The bravest, they'll fight to the grave. So proud of the born to be Spartans, they'll ride through the fire they face. They'll carry the weight of Leonidas, the bravest
Welcome, wanderer, to one of the most prestigious places in Greece, the theater. I'd tell you, but I think it's best to let the actors speak for themselves. The theater was where audiences gathered to watch plays. They were the highest form of art in Greece, and people saw theater as a symbol of complete harmony between the mortal world and the divine. When you're done taking in the sights and sounds, come see me, and we'll talk more. Until then, wanderer. Enjoy your visit. I will see you soon.
Μεγαλώνει με θεά, αγλαότιμα τεχνών, μήνυρ πολύ ολβέ, πολύ λίστημα.
Έχει καλό με σε τάγκα, φωλιώνει.
Μεγαλώνει με και πολιώνει με, φωνία και θηροκτώνε φυλαγρότη.
Ου καρεστώνει εστί.
Μεγαλώνει.
Ότι καλούμε.
Μεγαλώνει με θεά. Μεγαλώνει με θεά.
Theater is not just part of geek culture, but was a major part of Greek culture. In Athens, comedies and dramas originated from the dancing and singing performed by members of the cult of Dionysus. Between 536 and 533 BCE, theater's burgeoning importance in Athens was demonstrated when the responsibility of organizing tragedies was entrusted to the archon, the highest-ranking magistrate in the city. From then on, theater grew rapidly in popularity, and soon, a permanent space for performing and watching plays was built on the slope of the Acropolis. During the 5th century BCE, theater became intertwined with Athens' democracy. It often functioned as an echo chamber for political ideas. And in some cases, it could even influence public opinion. As a result, in the 4th century BCE, Plato coined the term theatrocracy to describe his city's politics.
Ολούς εστιός περ κύπελο. Ναι, αλλιαφή. Σοφόκλης, Σοφόκλης, άγε και φέρε πλειάδα χωρίς... Η τραγωδία κινείται μεταξύ τριών βαθμίδων. Δύση εκτιμήσεται όντως το απιστεύεις. Και τελετάρχα, Θεόν Πάτερ ιδέ και Ιε, σκυπτούχε, κούρε δημάτορ, βοτριόκος με οδηγέ των κομμών, ελθέ μάκαρ, μίστες υβρίων και χαρημένος εή. Επικαλούμε σε, Μάκαρ.
Theatrical competitions were held in the sanctuary of Dionysus Eleutherius, god of wine and patron of drama. Dionysus was the son of Zeus and a mortal woman named Semele. Stories say that Zeus, who had fallen in love with Semele, appeared to her holding a lightning bolt in his hand. Semele was tragically struck dead by the lightning, but Zeus managed to save her unborn child, keeping the embryo in his thigh until it fully gestated. This is why the name Dionysus is sometimes thought to mean born twice. In Athens, theater was a part of the cult of Dionysus, and stage productions in the god's honor were held during festivals like the Linnea and the Great Dionysia.
Άδικον εστί.
Επικαλούμεσαι, Μάκα, πολυώνυμε, πυρήπολε και
Μεγαλώνει με θεά, αγλαώθη με, τεχνών μη τυρκονικόρθε.
In Athens, there were 3 festivals that honored Dionysus with drama performances: the rustic Dionysias, the Linnea, and the Great Dionysia. For the rustic Dionysia, each deme of Attica organized their own Dionysiac procession. The parades were full of phallic songs, dances, and symbols meant to signify fertility, and participants wore drunkard masks and sang bawdy lyrics about the god. It was exclusively reserved for Greek citizens and mostly made up of comedy performances. Finally, the Great Dionysia was the most taken. In Athens, there were 3 festivals that honored Dionysus with drama performances: the rustic Dionysias, the Linnea, and the Great Dionysia. For the rustic Dionysia, each deme of Attica organized their own Dionysiac procession. The parades were full of phallic songs, dances, and symbols meant to signify fertility, and participants wore drunkard masks and sang bawdy lyrics about the god. The Linnea was the oldest Dionysian festival. It was exclusively reserved for Greek citizens and mostly made up of comedy performances. Finally, the Great Dionysia was the most important festival. Taking place over several days, it began with a parade called a Phallophori, followed by a dithyramb contest, and ending with consecrated drama competitions.
στον Κόρακαν.
Τούτο μόνο. Παύσεις.
Όλους εστιός περκύπηλον. Το γίγνωσκην και το επίσταστε.
The Great Dionysia was supervised by the head magistrate known as the Archon, who was assisted by 12 other magistrates. Among his duties, the Archon picked Korigoi, rich Athenian citizens responsible for providing the budget for rehearsals and performances. 2 days before the Dionysia, a ceremony called the Proagon took place where playwrights introduced their work. The Dionysia finally began in earnest with a procession to the god's temple, followed by sacrifices and a symposium. The next 2 days centered on dithyramb contests, while the final 4 days were dedicated to drama competitions. The contest's outcomes were decided by 10 judges who were appointed at random by the Archon. The judges placed their votes in an urn, and 5 of the votes were randomly picked to determine the winner. All Athenian stage actors were male, regardless of whether they were playing men or women. Tragedies originally featured only one actor performing alongside a chorus, eventually reaching a maximum of 4. Adding more roles opened up the opportunity for dramatic dialogue. During performances, they prepared themselves in the skene, a building that served as a backstage area, before emerging onto the proscenium. or stage. The skene could be painted to represent backdrops like palaces, temples, and tombs. Its roof was reserved for appearances by the gods. These gods could be moved around with a crane called a mechane, which produced spectacular visual effects. On stage, actors wore masks and elaborate costumes. For tragedies, they were adorned with magnificent clothes. While for comedies, actors playing male characters wore hugely exaggerated phalluses, probably to maximize the laughs. The centerpiece of the theater was the orchestra, or dancing place. It was a large, circular area that hosted choral performances, religious rites, and, presumably, acting. Choruses were composed of men wearing masks and costumes. Any Athenian citizen could be choritai, as long as they were selected by the chorus director. Chorus members also served as the equivalent of a curtain, as their entrance and exit marked the beginning and end of the play. New costumes and masks were produced for the chorus for every new play, and they were often just as impressive and elaborate as the performances. For example, Aristophanes' comedies feature the chorus dressing as wasps, frogs, birds, clouds, and islands. One of his plays, The Knights, even had men riding other men dressed as horses. Athens' Theatron, or performance space, could seat up to 17,000 people, nearly a tenth of the population of Attica. Its excellent acoustics made it ideal for drama, but it was also sometimes used for political meetings and parades. The theater was accessible to everybody. This did not mean that seating was free, though. The first rows were normally where priests and public officials sat, while the central part of the auditorium was reserved for ambassadors and guests of honor. There is also evidence that men and women sat separately. In general, theater audiences were emotional and noisy. During performances, they would shout, curse, and throw things depending on their mood, and their reactions were just as much a part of the experience as the acting.
Hello again, Wanderer. I hope your visit was entertaining. Though all art forms were important in Greek culture, none had the same prestige as theater, which provided a unique experience with every performance. Is there anything else you'd like to do? Really? Then let's begin. Who was Dionysos' mother? Coronis was Asclepios' mother. Try again. Who was Dionysos' mother? Hera was Zeus's sister wife, but Dionysos was not her child. Try a different answer. No, Aristophanes was a playwright and a mortal. Keep trying. Correct! Unfortunately, Semele died before her son was born, but Zeus saved the unborn baby and raised him as a god. Next, another question. Which competitions took place on the second and third days of the Great Dionysia? The Dionysia was more about art and culture than athletic prowess. Try a different answer. Which competitions took place on the second and third days of the Great Dionysia? Dionysos was the god of wine, so there's no doubt drinking occurred during the festival, but it wasn't limited to a paltry 2 days. Keep trying. Yes, the Thyramvi were hymns dedicated to Dionysos, and the Thyrambos contests were held on the second and third days of the festival. And finally, the last question. Which of the following is the oldest festival dedicated to Dionysos? Which of the following is the oldest festival dedicated to Dionysos? You are correct. The Linnea was the oldest Dionysiac festival. Congratulations, Wanderer. You're a very studious theater goer. Really? Then let's begin. Who was Dionysos' mother? Correct. Unfortunately, Semele died before her son was born, but Zeus saved the unborn baby and raised him as a god. Next, another question. which competitions took place on the second and third days of the Great Dionysia. No, the drama contests were reserved for the final 4 days of the festival. Try again. Yes, the Theramvi were hymns dedicated to Dionysos, and the Thirambos contests were held on the second and third days of the festival. And finally, the last question. Which of the following is the oldest festival dedicated to Dionysos? The Great Dionysia was one of the largest festivals dedicated to the god, but not the oldest. Try a different answer. Which of the following is the oldest festival dedicated to Dionysos? The rustic Dionysia was not the oldest Dionysiac festival. Keep trying. The Adonia was dedicated to Adonis, not Dionysos. Try again. You are correct. The Linnea was the oldest Dionysiac festival. Congratulations, Wanderer. You're a very studious theater goer. Then I will leave you be. Farewell, Wanderer.
Hello, my friend! It is my pleasure to introduce you to Corinth's Temple of Aphrodite. It really is a lovely sight, isn't it? The temple, that is, not the ladies. Although they are also lovely. Lovely and lively and, I'm sorry, what were we talking about? In Greece, many love stories were told about the gods. How romantic! Sometimes they were heartwarming and happy, but they often ended in tears, tragedy, and a whole brood of illegitimate children. I'm looking at you, Zeus! Anyway, this tour will introduce you to some of these divine love stories, which may give you perspective on how the Greeks approached love in their own lives. Enjoy your visit, my friend. I'll come see you again when you finish the tour. I'm busy right now, my friend. Come talk to me later.
Much like Athens, Corinth had its own acropolis, called the Acrocorinth. The natural promontory provided an excellent view of the surrounding territory. It was also the home of several sanctuaries, allegedly constructed in the 6th century BCE. The Acrocorinth's most famous attraction was the Temple of Aphrodite. Pausanias describes it as having statues of Aphrodite, her son Eros, and the sun god Helios. According to Strabo, the temple's most distinguishing feature was its servants, who acted as sacred prostitutes. However, Strabo is the only source for this information, and it is still hotly debated to this day. Love played a large role in countless mythological stories. Zeus himself was not immune to the feeling, and fell for both mortals and other deities. Some myths centered on forbidden feelings that led to tragedy, such as Phaedra's love for her stepson Hippolytus. While marriage was prominent in mythology, it was usually presented as problematic. For example, Aphrodite frequently cheated on her husband Hephaestus, and Medea's resentment against her ex-husband Jason eventually drove her mad enough to murder her children. These less-than-ideal depictions reflected the Greeks' idea of marriage, which they viewed as a civic duty instead of a romantic union.
Η ακριβής τελείως, που καίστημη σπουδαίων, ο εμός πατήρ.
λαμβάνει η χώρα.
Μεγαλώνει με θεά.
I'm busy right now, my friend. Come talk to me later. I'm busy right now, my friend. Come talk to me later. I'm busy right now, my friend. Come.
The goddess Aphrodite was one of the mightiest Olympians and was typically associated with love, beauty, and sex. She was worshipped all across the ancient Mediterranean by men and women, both young and old. Her origins differ depending on the version of the story. The poet Hesiod says that she was born from the severed genitals of Uranus, while Homer's version of the myth names her as the daughter of Zeus and Dione. Aphrodite appeared regularly in mythological stories and had many mortal lovers. Her favorite was Adonis, a beautiful boy who died tragically in a hunting accident. Aphrodite was devastated by his death, so she created a cult called the Adonia to commemorate him.
Μεγαλώνει με και πολιώνει με χθόνια και θηροκτό.
επικαλού.
My friend, good to see you again. I bet you were surprised by some of the stories you heard. For a bunch of immortal beings, the gods certainly were saucy, eh? Tell me if there's anything else I can do for you. Is that so, my friend? Then let's get started. Which poet said that Aphrodite was the daughter of Zeus and Dione? Which poet said that Aphrodite was the daughter of Zeus and Dione? I am exceedingly flattered that you think I'm a poet. Unfortunately, I am a mere brilliant but misunderstood businessman. Keep trying, though. I'm afraid Phidias was a sculptor. Try again. Yes, it was Homer who said Aphrodite was a child of Zeus. On to the next question. Medea was married to which legendary hero? Depending on the story, Heracles married many women, but none of them were Medea. Try another answer. Medea was married to which legendary hero? Pelops was a one-woman kind of man, but that woman was Hippodamia, not Medea. Keep trying. Yes, Medea was married to Iason, but after he left her for someone else, she resented him so much she murdered their children. But let's not talk about such depressing things. Instead, you can answer this last question. What was the name of Corinth's Acropolis? No. Although now that I hear it, I must admit that Acropolis really rolls off the tongue. What was the name of Corinth's Acropolis? Ha! That's what I would have called it. Unfortunately, it's not the Acropolis's actual name. The Acropolis is indeed a big rock, but it was not called the Great Rock. Try again. Correct. The Acrocorinth has been home to many sanctuaries, as well as the famous Temple of Aphrodite. You passed the test! Congratulations, my intelligent friend! Is that so, my friend? Then let's get started. Which poet said that Aphrodite was the daughter of Zeus and Dione? Hesiodos's version of this story said Aphrodite was the product of Uranus's, chopped olives, so to speak. So, no. Yes, it was Homer who said Aphrodite was a child of Zeus. On to the next question. Medea was married to which legendary hero? Depending on the story, Heracles married many women, but none of them were Medea. Try another answer. Odysseus was married to Penelope. Try again. Yes, Medea was married to Iason, but after he left her for someone else, she resented him so much she murdered their children. But let's not talk about such depressing things. Instead, you can answer this last question. What was the name of Corinth's Acropolis? Correct. The Acrocorinth has been home to many sanctuaries, as well as the famous Temple of Aphrodite. You passed the test! Congratulations, my intelligent friend! Normally, I don't let people go until they buy a souvenir, but for you, my friend, I'll make an exception!
Ας πράξει σου έγνον.
Ναι, ασχολιαντινά βεβαίως. Στα γέννητε, τι σχόλη προποδών έχεις?
Ίστα έχω ευκολία και είμαι καλήφωνος.
Όπου δεν βρουν έξω η πυρέτα.
Διαδίουχοι αρούν.
Βαβέ, τούτους τους όνους μαστιγού. Ακαταβάυστος μαστιγού. Ουε, μη διήσεις με εκτός ομιλήν.
Welcome to the silver mines of Lavrion. The mines make me nervous. All those fumes can't be safe to inhale day in and day out. The Lavrion silver mines were discovered between Thorikos and Cape Sunion, near Athens. They were rich in the mineral galena and provided Athens with much of the silver necessary to mint its currency. Because of this, the mines were invaluable to the city, and the resources they provided helped turn Athens into one of the most powerful states in Greece. We will meet again after you've seen what the mines have to offer. Farewell for now, wanderer. Enjoy your visit. I will see you soon.
Silver mines were extremely rare in ancient Greece, which only increased their importance. Athens started exploiting the Lavrian silver mines at the end of the 6th century BCE and used its metal to produce its currency. Production at the mines exploded around 485 BCE when an especially rich vein was discovered. The mine's abundant silver made Athens one of the wealthiest cities in Greece. They also provided the resources necessary to build a fleet large enough to defeat the Persians at the Battle of Salamis. In short, the Lavrian mines played an integral part in the emergence of Athens as a Greek superpower. Exploiting the mine's resources required a lot of labor. To meet this requirement and save on cost, Athens leased out mining concessions to its citizens, who had their slaves to do most of the work, alongside poor day laborers. In the 5th century BCE alone, there were anywhere from 10,000 to 30,000 people toiling in the mines of Lavrion. Together, the workers managed to produce an estimated 20 tons of silver per year. Silver mine offered them in
Είτε εν μουσική, εν ρυθμό τινή, άδετε και εργάζεστε.
Mining in Lavrion was a two-step process. First, the ore was extracted, and then it was refined. It took about 16 kilograms of raw ore to produce a single pure silver drachma of about 4 grams. Recovered artifacts from the mines provide some insight into the specifics of the mining process. Galleries were dug to follow the veins of ore. They were small and did not offer much space for the workers. They were also hand-cut, and it's believed that it took whole days to dig only a few centimeters. Once the galleries finally reached the veins, the ore was extracted and then crushed on mortar stone to prepare it for washing.
Μάλλον το αίμα αυτό, λέγω, Φεφ. Μάλλον αυτό
Άφησε
αφήσει.
πάρα αυτά.
Λέγονε με αυτό. Βαβέ, τούτους τους όνους μαστιγού. Ακαταβάστος μαστιγού. Ουέ, μη ποιήσεις με εκτός. Είτε εν μουσική, εν ρυθμότινη. Άνδετε και εργάζεστε.
Mine workers used washeries to help clean rock from the ore. The washing process required a large supply of water, but Lavrion was an infamously dry region. To compensate, cisterns were built in the mining area to collect and conserve seasonal rainwater. Once enough water had accumulated, workers poured it into wooden troughs containing rock and ore. The water's flow separated the lighter grains of rock from the heavier ore, which was caught in depressions at the bottom of the trough. The newly cleaned ore was collected for refinement, and the water was redirected back into a tank to be reused later.
Ουέ, μη ποιήσεις με εκτός ομιλή. Είτε εν μουσική, εν ρυθμότινη. Άνδετε και εργάζεστε. Ουκούν γρηγορείτε, παιδες.
Once the ore was clean and dry, it was ready for smelting. Its purpose was to isolate the silver in the ore. To do this, the ore was placed in a conical furnace filled with combustible charcoal. Bellows pumped air into the furnace to control the temperature. Inside, the ore burned, emitting a toxic smoke that was evacuated through a chimney. Eventually, the silver alloy was separated from the slag and collected for the last step in the refinement process, cupellation. Cupellation removed any leftover lead from the silver. The smelted alloy was placed in a cupel, an absorbent bowl made of bone ashes. It was then put in a furnace, where it absorbed the lead and left only silver behind. While the mines of Lavrion belonged to Athens, the city frequently leased them to private citizens, who exploited the site for anywhere from 3 to 10 years. These citizens enlisted slaves and poor day laborers to carry out most of the work. The workers had a very low life expectancy, about 3 to 5 years, due to the hazardous working conditions. The dangers they faced included toxic lead vapor in the air and lung-choking dust in the galleries. However, they were fed well enough to keep up their work, and their combined labor managed to produce an estimated 20 tons of silver a year.
I hope you enjoyed your trip through the mines. We talk so much of Athens' glory, but we often forget the city's power was due to tremendous amounts of work. Work that often had a great human cost. What else would you like to do? Excellent! Let's begin. What was the last step in the silver refinement process? Washing the ore was done shortly after its extraction, but it was still early on in the process. Try again. Smelting isolated the silver in the ore, but it was not the final step in the refinement. Try another answer. What was the last step in the silver refinement process? Extraction was actually one of the first steps in the mining process. Keep trying. Yes! Capellation removed any remaining lead, leaving only the silver behind. Now, for the second question. How did workers acquire water for the ore washing process? Lavrion was a very dry area, and there were no rivers close enough to be redirected. Pick another answer. How did workers acquire water for the ore washing process? No, importing water from the sea would have been too much work, even for the industrious miners. Try again. If they did beg Poseidon, their pleas fell on deaf ears because no such well existed. Try a different answer. Correct. The workers used cisterns to collect the seasonal rainwater. Now, the final question. Which famous battle did the mines help Athens win? The Battle of Nemea ended in a stunning Spartan victory against the allied Greek cities of Thebes, Argos, Corinth, and unfortunately, Athens. Try a different answer. Which famous battle did the mines help Athens win? This battle was between Sparta, Thebes, and Argos. Athens did not participate. Keep trying. The Battle of Chaeronea was fought against Philip II's Macedonian forces, and Athens was on the losing side. Try another answer. Correct. The Athenians used silver from the mines to finance a massive fleet for the Battle of Salamis. It's clear your visit has taught you much. A job well done, Wanderer. Farewell, Wanderer. Best of luck on your journeys.
Μη διήσεις με εκτός ομιλή. Είτε εν μουσική.
Κουκούν, γρηγορείτε παιδες.
Welcome to Laconia, visitor. You're here to learn about Spartan society, yes? Then I won't stop you. Sparta is a glorious place, and you should feel honored to be here. Honored, and perhaps somewhat frightened. Sparta had a unique hierarchy, especially compared to the rest of Greece. Everyone had their place, and you will soon learn what those places were. I will find you again once your visit has ended. Until then, visitor. Go. We will talk.
Spartan society was structured around austerity, self-sufficiency, and a hostility towards foreign elements. It was divided into three social classes: citizens, perioikoi, and helots. Citizens were called Spartans, or homoioi. They were free men and women with mostly equal rights and wealth, though their contributions to political life were extremely limited. The perioikoi lived in surrounding areas under Spartan control. They cultivated the land and were primarily merchants and craftsmen. They were also part of the army, and their lands were the first line of defense in the event of a hostile attack. Helots were Sparta's lowest class. They were people who had lost their freedom to the Spartans, and they served the city as slaves. Helots were considered property instead of people. As a result, they had no political or civil rights. Helots made up the majority of Sparta's population. According to Polydeuces, they lingered between slavery and freedom. Two elements made Helots differ from other slaves. They were allowed to form their own families, and they were publicly owned by the city of Sparta instead of private citizens. Because Helots were deemed public property, they could not be sold as merchandise. They mostly worked to cultivate the land, but also fought in wars alongside the Spartans. While they gave the fruits of their labor to Sparta, they also kept a fair part of it for themselves. This practice allowed some Helots to make enough money to buy their own freedom. Alternatively, if a Helot served the state well enough in military campaigns, they could also be granted civil rights. The founding of Sparta is dated around the 9th century BCE. Historical information about the city is limited, but it was known to extend into the region of Laconia. Over time, Sparta started encroaching on the territory of Messenia, eventually leading to war. Sparta gained more land in this conflict, which they divided between their citizens and the Perioikoi. The aftermath of the Second Messenian War, from 640 to 620 BCE, then divided the population into three groups: the Homoioi, the Perioikoi, and the Helots. The Helots of Laconia mostly respected Sparta's rule and did not cause much trouble. However, Helots from Messenia supposedly resisted the Spartans, although sources can only confirm one revolt for certain, which occurred in Messenia in 464 BCE. During the 5th century BCE, helots were quite active in the army, especially during the Peloponnesian War. They served as hoplites on land and as rowers during naval battles. In both cases, they gave Sparta an important numerical advantage. For every Spartan on the battlefield, there were at least 7 helots. Although many ancient sources say Spartans had a hostile relationship with helots, they were much more likely to treat them better in times of war. For example, when 300 helots and 120 elite Spartans were captured by Athens during the Battle of Sphacteria in 425 BCE, the Spartans promised the helots their freedom if they served them well in combat. Similarly, around the same time, the Spartan general Brasidas fought a battle alongside 700 helots. Impressed by their courage and loyalty, Brasidas later freed them all and allowed them to join the Perioikoi. Perioikoi were another group of Sparta's population. They lived not in the city itself, but in its surrounding areas. The Perioikoi were never hostile against the Spartans. In fact, both groups together were known by the collective name Lacedaemonians. Perioikic cities had their own autonomy and sanctuaries, but they were always bound to Sparta. They were allowed to develop their own local laws and economies, but could never reach a level of prosperity that rivaled their parent state.
Ίσως και την Αικιακά, την Άκια και ιδρύες ονειμένα εξ Ατλαντίδος, ή εκ του προκτού σου ηλκισμένα. Εσείς τα άπαντας τους φέροντας άπαντα. Λέξος ειρήνη. Υπότεται εις το μείζον πολιτήριον ενταυθεί. Ευώδη αρώματα
I see you finished. I hope you have a better appreciation for Spartan society. Nothing we do is without reason, and every man, woman, and child has a role to play. What would you like to do? Is that so? Then let us begin. During which battle were Ilots promised their freedom? It was Athens who fought the Persians at Marathon, not Sparta. Try again. During which battle were Ilots promised their freedom? No, that is not the battle I am thinking of. Keep trying. The Battle of Salamis was a glorious naval engagement where we managed to drive back a host of Persian ships, but we did not promise to free our Ilots. Try a different answer. Yes. In the Battle of Stacteria, a group of elite Spartans promised to free their accompanying Ilots if they helped the Spartans during a siege. Next question. Which of the following is another name for Spartan citizens? The Periki were people living in Sparta's surrounding areas. Try again. Which of the following is another name for Spartan citizens? No, Ilots were slaves. Keep trying. A phalanx is a military formation, not a people. Try a different answer. Spartan citizens were also called Oni, which meant equals. One final question. Which Spartan general freed 700 Ilots? True, Pausanias was a Spartan general, but there is no record of him freeing 700 Ilots. Try another answer. Which Spartan general freed 700 Ilots? Thucydides was an Athenian general and historian. Try again. I regret to say I have not heard of this general. Though if they were from Sparta, I am sure they were noble and courageous. However, they're not the Spartan I'm looking for. Keep trying. Correct. Brasidas freed 700 Ilots as a reward for their exemplary military service. You passed. I'm impressed. Then you may leave. Farewell, visitor.
Αδυνάμενο να ανεβρύνσει φλασκία είναι ωραία, μηδενός αντιπιένκιος.
προσθέθηκε